Okay, hello friends, and welcome to this new lecture on finite volume method. So, if you recall, in the last lecture we looked at the quick scheme, and today I'll start my lecture by first giving some general comments on the quick scheme. So, one of the things that you can see is, or let me do this graphically. Let's look at a particular problem that we're trying to model. Let's say there's a solution to a given problem which looks like this. Okay, so let's say this is the exact solution to a problem, and if we were to do this using a quick scheme, so this basically has, let's say, a discontinuous variation of a particular function, let's say phi. If we were to do this using, let's say, the upwind scheme, the more traditional upwind scheme, then we know that we'll see the effect of dissipation in the solution, and so the solution may look something like, okay, so this is going to be the solution, and so you'll have a dissipative effect in the solution. Now the same thing was to be done using quick. What you would notice is that the solution would actually be much more faithful to the exact solution, except you may see a small amount of oscillation in the solution. Okay, and I'm exaggerating these wiggles. Okay, so these are these wiggles or oscillations that I'm calling, which would be typically seen in a quick scheme. So these are basically the dispersive errors in the solution. Okay, so the quick scheme essentially is more accurate. Okay, it's more accurate than the upwind scheme or the central differencing scheme or even the hybrid scheme. Okay, but what we see is that the quick scheme can give us these overshoots or undershoots. Okay, so these overshoots and undershoots basically give us non-physical values, right? So basically the parameter, let's say if phi that we are trying to model, this is variation of phi, it's possible that phi can actually either exceed the allowable range or go below the allowable range. So sometimes even phi could be concentration, and the concentration cannot be negative, but at this location here, maybe phi becomes negative. Okay, so these issues actually led to development of schemes that could avoid these problems, and under this development came what is called as the total variation diminishing schemes. TVD. Okay, so TVD were schemes that were developed to get rid of these problems, rid of these undershoots and overshoots. Okay, now historically, if I tell you a little bit of background on TVD, actually these schemes were meant or were used for discretization of equations that govern time-dependent compressible flows. But these schemes have recently become more popular for even general purpose CFD, and TVD in itself actually involves a fair amount of mathematics, and it's quite tedious and cumbersome to be compressed into one lecture. But what I'm going to do in this lecture is to give you the general principle, okay, the ideas behind this scheme, which are fairly easy to understand. Okay, and the key concept here is that we have to suppress this tendency for these overshoots and undershoots, so these oscillations. So the tendency for oscillations is suppressed or is reduced, okay, by adding a weighting or a weight function towards the upstream contribution. So I'll show you how this is done, but in broad terms, this is what we will actually see. Okay. So to illustrate what this scheme does or how this works, let's just go back to the 1D problem again. Okay, so let's say we have a point P, E, W, and we have the faces W, let's say face E, and just to illustrate the concept, let me assume that the velocities are positive. So let's say U, W, U, E are both positive. Okay. Now let's say we want to specify phi E. Okay, let's say this is, in fact, this is the whole principle of working with of all the other schemes that we've been doing so far, that we wanted to get the function values at the interface or at the cell faces. Okay, so let's use a generalization, or TVD uses a generalization of the form that we can write. Let's say phi E is phi P, which is the upstream value, plus half into psi into phi E minus phi P. Okay, so phi is the function, the value of the variable function, the variable at these grid points. Okay, psi is what is called as a flux limiter function. It's called the flux limiter function. Okay, now by doing this, by writing it this way, I can now say that Fe phi E, which will appear in as a result of the discretization of the, or rather the integration of the governing equation, would be Fe phi P plus half psi Fe into phi E minus phi P. Now if you notice carefully, the first part is essentially the flux as specified by the upwind differencing. Okay, so I'm just going to write UD to denote its upwind differencing. Okay, plus the second part is essentially an additional flux on top of what the upwind differencing gives. And this additional flux, if you look at, I mean, it says it's psi into phi E minus phi P. Phi E minus phi P is sort of like the gradient of phi, right? It is gradient of phi into some length, right? So maybe dot dx if you want to write it this way, something like that. It's analogous to this part. So I can say this is an additional flux which is connected to the gradient of phi. Okay, and why am I saying it's gradient of phi? Because remember, this is being I'm talking of phi E. Okay, and if I had to calculate the gradient at this phase, I would need phi E and phi P. Okay, so that is the reason we are writing it, or we're saying it's something which is connected to the gradient at this phase. Now, one thing that you can notice is that if psi was 0, phi E becomes phi P, and if you think about it, you have seen this earlier, this is essentially the basis for the upwind differencing. Okay, similarly, if psi is 1, then phi E becomes half into phi E plus phi P, which is central differencing. Okay, So two values of psi essentially are taking into account the schemes that we already developed. Now let's say if we had to write this quick scheme, or we wanted to look at what happens in the quick scheme, or what is a psi for the quick scheme. Okay, so in the quick scheme, if you recall, phi e was written as 1 by 8 6 phi p plus 3 phi e minus phi w, and let me say that this is going to be written as phi p plus half psi into phi e minus phi p. So by equating this side, you can actually prove that psi will actually come out to be 1 by 4 3 plus phi p minus phi w by phi e minus phi p. This you can prove on your own. Okay, so this now can be used, or if you look at the right hand side, this function here, phi p minus phi w by phi e minus phi w, this is sort of like the ratio of the upwind side gradient of phi to the downstream side gradient. Isn't it? Because upstream side gradient will mean that upstream would mean what is before it, so that would be phi p minus phi w, because you need the gradient at the phase w. Okay, and this phi e minus phi p becomes a gradient at phase e. Okay, and the ratio of these gradients is essentially deciding the value of psi. Okay, so we call, in the quick scheme, we typically call the ratio r to be this ratio of gradients. So phi p minus phi w by phi e minus phi p. Okay, and then psi becomes a function of r. Okay, which means now I can write phi e as a general purpose expression to be half psi of r phi e minus phi p, where different forms of psi will basically give me different schemes. Okay, so this is just some aspects of TVD. I have not even told you why is it called as a total variation diminishing scheme. So to explain that, let me now bring to you some of the more mathematical aspects. Even though I'm not going to go into detailed mathematics, I'll just state some theorems and some ideas. You are welcome to go and look at additional literature to convince yourself that this is how it is. So let me talk about the total variation first, and let's look at a grid. Let's say we have a grid point I plus 1, and grid point I minus 1. Okay, and this is, again, I'm doing this for a 1D grid. Of course, the same idea will also apply to 2D and 3D. When we talk about total variation, I'm going to write total variation as TV. So total variation could be written for a problem as difference of phi I plus 1 minus phi I modulus, but summed over all the grid points. So nx here is number of grid points. Okay, so this is what the total variation actually is mathematically. Now we said we want a scheme, right? Our whole philosophy of coming to this problem or this scheme is actually that we want a scheme which is stable, is non-oscillatory. Okay, and so two requirements that we have are stable and non-oscillatory behavior, right? Now a higher order scheme which is stable and non-oscillatory Okay, it's one of the desirable requirements for a higher order scheme to give us both characteristics, is that it should be monotonicity preserving. So monotonicity preserving. So if a scheme is monotonicity preserving in nature, then we can get both stable and non-oscillatory behavior. Now, in simple terms, what monotonicity preserving means is that the scheme should be such that it should not create, and let me maybe write this, a scheme should be should be one which should not create new undershoots and overshoots in the solution. Okay, so a monotonicity preserving scheme is one scheme that does not create new undershoots and overshoots in the solution. Okay, essentially the scheme should not be creating new local maxima or minima. Okay, now for this to happen, that the scheme should not create any new overshoots or undershoots in the solution, the total variation, okay, must not increase. Only then do we get this kind of behavior. And monotonicity preserving schemes essentially have this property that the total variation of the discrete solution, by the way, because we are doing a discrete calculation process, the total variation of the discrete solution does not, or it diminishes with time. Okay, so what we have is that the monotonicity preserving schemes have the property that the total variation of discrete solution should diminish with time. Okay, and since the total variation is diminishing with time, this is the reason we call these schemes as total variation diminishing, or TVD. Now I understand that some of you may have this confusion, what exactly am I talking about in terms of total variation diminishing and monotonicity preserving. These are all abstract ideas. So let me give you what I'm trying to say in terms of mathematics. So I have defined the total variation now. I say total variation is phi I plus 1 minus phi I modulus and summed over all grid points. Mathematically, let's say if n and n plus 1 are successive time steps in the solution process. Okay, these are discrete time steps or discrete instances when the solution is being obtained. Then what we mean as the total variation of the variable phi, okay, and I'm saying phi here as a vector basically. Okay, so total variation of the vector phi at n plus 1, and if you look at total variation of the function or the same function phi at n, okay, these are not exponents, these are actually values at instances n plus 1 and n. So the total variation should be decreasing or at least be the same as you go ahead in time. So this is the property of these monotonicity preserving schemes. Now this is the mathematical background. Now based on this idea, certain forms of the function psi, okay, the flux limiter function, have been defined. So the examples of function that satisfy these properties of monotonicity preserving or this monotonicity preserving properties. One of them is psi of r is r plus modulus r by 1 plus r, and this was given by Professor Van Leer in 1974. Okay. The other scheme or the other form of flux limiter function is what was given by Professor Phil Rowe. So this is 0 max of 0 comma min of 2r comma 1 comma min r comma 2, which is attributed to Professor Phil Rowe. So both are actually from the same department of aerospace engineering in University of Michigan. Okay, and there are many more versions. I'm just not bringing them just because that's not the purpose of me covering this topic. Okay, so now once you've looked at possibilities, that once these possible functions were derived which satisfy these properties, okay, now let's look at how this scheme is implemented. And to illustrate the implementation part, let me use the steady convection diffusion problem. So the steady convection diffusion problem says, and again I'm doing it in 1D only, that d by dx of rho u phi is d by dx of gamma d phi dx. Okay, now we can integrate this equation on the domain. Okay, so if we integrate, we'll get fe phi e minus f w phi w will be de phi e minus phi p minus dw phi p minus phi w. I'm sorry for this, phi w. Okay, and let's say that ue and uw are greater than 0. Okay, then I can write phi e. Remember the function phi e that we require to go ahead with this solution process, to be the upstream value plus psi into some function r at the face e into phi e minus phi p. Let me say this is a, and here I'm say re is the upstream gradient versus the downstream gradient. Okay, in fact that is the reason I have chosen ue and uw to be positive, because I want upstream and downstream to be taken in the appropriate manner. I want upstream to be, because velocity is positive, that means flow is going from left to right. Upstream becomes phi p minus phi w and downstream becomes phi e minus phi p. In case ue and uw are negative, then in that case the upstream will basically become, okay, it would become phi p minus phi e, okay, and the downstream will become phi w minus phi p. Similarly, now I can write phi w to be phi w plus half psi r of w into phi p minus phi w, where again rw is, remember it's upstream versus downstream. So at the west face we'll have upstream to be phi w minus phi ww, and downstream would be phi p minus phi w. Okay, this, remember this variable r, it's basically again, as I'm reiterating, it's a local ratio of upstream to downstream gradients. Now I can substitute a and b into 1, and then I can simplify to get an equation of this form: AP phi P is AE phi E plus AW phi W plus B, where if you do the substitution and work it out, AE will come out to be DE, AW will come out to be DW plus FW, AP will be AE plus AW plus FE minus FW, and B, the constant B, would be minus FE into half psi of RE into phi E minus phi P plus FW into half psi RW into phi P minus phi W. Now, one thing that you have to notice very carefully here, and something which I have gone over very quickly without letting you, maybe get the full gist of it, is that I have one thing I have ensured in this formulation is that the coefficients are all positive. Okay, and they're the same as the upwind scheme. So we know that upwind scheme is stable. So by writing it this way, we have ensured that the solution would be stable. Okay. The second part is that this B that I've written actually has contributions phi E, phi P, which are actually unknowns. So this B actually is what I call as, or what some books also call as deferred correction. By writing the B in this form, we are actually avoiding negative coefficients in AE, AW and AP, and that basically avoids the occurrence of instability. Okay. So, of course, what it does is, now if you think of it carefully, because phi E, phi P, those are the variables that you're trying to solve for. By putting them in B, you are actually now enforcing, or this system of equations will actually require an iterative solution. So you guess some solution for phi, calculate B, calculate the coefficients A, AW, AP, calculate the phi based on the discretization equation, and then you see whether the solution has converged or not. Okay, and keep repeating until the guess converges. Okay. A similar equation can also be written in the case the flow was in the opposite direction. So that is basically if UE and UW were negative, even there you can write the discretization equation. Okay. So this is what the total variation diminution scheme actually is. Okay. In a sense, I can say that these schemes are generalizations of other discretization schemes. Okay. And as I've shown that to you in the early part of this lecture, that psi 0 becomes upwind, psi 1 becomes central differencing, and psi, we could also modify psi to the quick scheme. Okay. And one of the other things that the TVD schemes ensure is that they give far less diffusion than the first order upwind scheme, even though the solution may look like it's solution of the upwind scheme problem, but it shows far less diffusion because of this correction B. Okay. And the answers are also very close to the quick scheme. Okay. And so this scheme, by doing it in this form, and by choosing a function of the flux limiter function, which we are now given two examples of, we are actually ensuring that we have no overshoots or non-physical undershoots or overshoots in the solution. The only thing that we are now incurring is that the solution has to be obtained using iterative methods. Okay, so this is the point where I'm going to end this lecture, and I hope that this was helpful and you would have understood at least the basis of the total variation diminution schemes. And so I'll close it here. Thank you for listening, and stay safe.